Okay, so I'll get started. Thanks for all coming today to watch this little talk. I've set a personal goal for myself to do a talk each month in 2023. Today's the last day of January, and I'm sneaking it in there against all odds, even against my own recommendations, which I'll probably talk about later. But this talk is about habits, goals, and finding calm. This presentation, I'm not going to give you everything about habit forming, about goal setting, and about finding calm, but I hope to just inspire you to dig deeper into those areas. And I'll, at the end, give you some tools in your inbox of tools that I use, tools that I've made up, and hopefully they'll help you. So let's get going. So a big journey for me in 2022 was moving from becoming to being. And what that move was about for me was that I spent so much of my life, come on in guys, you're not late, just getting started. So I moved from this mentality and this mindset of becoming who I want to be, becoming an entrepreneur, or becoming a speaker, becoming good at something, becoming what I'm not. That was future thinking, so I was way ahead of myself. And then I slipped last year into this new space, which I found to be amazing. And it was being. It was this kind of Buddhist principle, meditative state of just, whoa, okay? But how do I get there and how do I be there all the time? It was a really confusing journey. But let's stick on that word being and another way that it can be interpreted. So for a long time, I've been being a dad at home. And I've been being a husband at home. And those two things, I was trying to be what I thought, what society has taught me would be a decent dad, a decent husband. And I wasn't just, oh, I forgot a slide here, I can already tell you. I wasn't just being, okay? There's supposed to be an extra slide there that says being. It's supposed to be a real moment, and you all feel it. But yeah, I wasn't just being myself. I wasn't just being Keith Delmar in the moment. And mid last year, I found that moment. And all of a sudden, time with my kids, time with my wife, time at home in general became super rich. I was really settled in who I was. I was showing up as Keith, that happy guy that my 9-year-old daughter said, Daddy, you used to be happy all the time. Where did that go? You know, where's happy daddy? And of course you hear that as a dad or a person and you go, whoa, you know, and it takes you back a step because you don't realize maybe you're a bit more grumpy when you go home. You know, you put all your energy out during the day at work and then you get home and you're trying to be something. So you're not focusing on just yourself. So being totally good space for me. Now, self-reflection is a really cool thing, and I think it's a really important tool. But up until this point, I had no way of doing it. I would try to look in the mirror in my mind, looking at myself, and when I'm dealing with struggles or whatnot, and use that approach. I'm going to self-reflect here. I'm going to try to look at what's going on for me. It didn't work for me at all. And instead, what I did was I came up with this little thing where I drew a little circle. And I said, okay, instead of the mirror, Keith, person I see in the mirror, I'm going to just draw a circle, and I'm going to pretend that circle, oh, I'll stick in front of the mirror for team viewers. That circle's me. It's empty, it's clear, it's calm, nothing in it. That's me at a perfect calm state. And I thought, cool, that's cool. Well, that's actually how I feel right now. And I scribbled in it in my mind, and I really got in there, and I just put my feelings in. What is that circle actually looking like? And now, my old methodology with looking in the mirror, I would look at Keith in the mirror and I'd go, oh, Keith, you need cake. That's going to make you feel better. We're going to give you cake. We'll do some positive self-talk, of course, but we're going to feed you lots of cake and overeat and have a good time. And that wasn't working. So now, when I looked at the circle and the piece of cake, it became really hilarious. Like, I could really feel I wasn't going to feed that chaos a piece of cake. I understood clearly cake wasn't going to cut it. Okay, so I was able to separate myself a little bit in that self-reflection and think a bit further outside the circle. What I did need for the circle to be calm was water, good sleep, some positive self-talk, of course, reminding myself of the good things. And we'll get to that in the talk. I've got some tools for that. And this was how I was able to move into a very healthy mindset. And what was really cool about this is when you learn things like this, don't keep them to yourself. The next morning when I went through this for myself, my daughter came out of her room raging, and I said, Stella, come here. And I brought her to the drawing table, and I said, we took a big piece of paper, and I said, okay, boom, big circle. This circle's you. What are you feeling? I want you to put what you're feeling, how you're feeling, the rage, everything. Use anything you want. Make that circle into how you're feeling right now. And she did exactly what I did the day before. Scribbled in it, just did exactly what I thought I would do. And then I said, what can we do to release some of that? And she's like, she went into all the tools that we have as a family. Looking at the board to understand my feelings. I mean, we're dorks, like parenting dorks for sure, okay? We started reading the parenting books before the kids were even here. My wife knew the names, the astrological symbols, she knew it all. But we're super dorks about that. But what it comes down to is that we have more tools in the house, which is cool. We have talking circles. We have a talking stick. And so she immediately said, I should sit down and discuss this with Emmett, her younger brother. Like, cool. And, let's go for a walk and play outside first. Cool. So she was figuring out ways. But it was just fun to share. Now, another thing that I've touched on last year was, I like to call, and if I can somehow find the time in my busy schedule to write a book, it'll be called Being the Curious Observer. And what that means is it's just taking this approach into other parts of your life, basically carrying mindfulness with you all the time. Because mindfulness, I'm going to go back to my wonderful circle, is really cool when you can be the dot in the middle and everything else is just around you. It's not affecting you, just observing everything as it's going by. Not only things in our environment, things outside us, but also what's going on in our own feelings and emotions. Just being that quiet observer. How am I feeling right now? It's a pretty fun way to go through life and deal with challenges. I lost my father-in-law on Saturday and had to go with, watching someone pass, incredibly challenging. I've been with him for, years and going through a recent health struggle. And to observe how I was processing, observe the environment I was in, not being judgmental as much as I can be. Sarah knows my story from the weekend. But, it's hard. We have to understand our environment. But I'm going to go to the other slide because that's an important slide. And being the curious observer of others allows us an opportunity to listen deeply to others, to wonder what's going on for them. I know these are things that we hear about all the time, good things to do, but I want to make sure that I'm there for my wife through this difficult time, and just standing back and watching what's going on for her is really important right now, so that I can be conscious and be there for her as a supportive husband, and just be there in my true self. Now, that's my mindfulness segment, and I think mindfulness and being calm is super important, because if we can't find our own center of calm, habits and goal setting becomes really hard, because how do we jump into our goals and habits when we're not feeling that inner sense of calm for ourselves? And so I hope that little circle that we shared will be a way to think about it when you're not feeling calm, like what's going on in my circle, what's going on in that shape. And not to forget that when your circle is full of stuff and it's sending off some pretty intense vibrations, it does affect other circles. And as my 4.5-year-old told me last night when we were going to bed, he said, Daddy, there's two people. One person says, what you just said to me made me feel this way. And then the other person says, no. He explained this to me 3 times. And he said, this finger is the person that says, what you say to me affects how I feel. And this is the person that says, no, it doesn't. You control how you feel. Now, I'd almost say that both are right. Because as parents, we'd like to get our children to understand that things coming from the outside, they have an opportunity to center themselves and say, am I going to take that on or am I not? But then again, being a child, 4.5, no. He says, no, you're wrong. I actually feel what you feel because I'm emotive, I'm an emotional being. And so, as humans, when we look at our circle, that when it's empty and clear and clean, our effect on others emotionally, we're pretty cool. We're just being one with everybody. We're all connected. I'll get you all Buddhist on you. I'm not affiliated with anything, but just saying, we're all connected, I believe. And when our circle is full of stuff and the edges are all frayed and sending out vibrations, it does affect others, especially my 4.5-year-old, which he'll tell you so. But yeah, we're working together on it. Now, that concludes my calm section of my talk. I just thought, do that first, because if we can be calm, then we can attack our goals and habits. Now, one of the most important things for goal setting I've learned, and to set the scene a little bit more, I've spent the last 4 years setting goals for myself because I'm a creative neurodiverse dyslexic, and trying to be creative and achieve things in life without goals, really hard. But goals, when they're A to B, also very hard to follow. When somebody says, you know, here's A, this is where you are, and your goal is B, now you do everything you can to get to it. It's an approach that challenges me. So I came up with my own approach. An ingredient in that is our values. And so identifying our values, hugely important. Now, Leal did a segment a long time ago on Thrive from Brene Brown about identifying our values. It has a sheet and there's a few steps to go through. Highly recommend it. And once we can identify our core values down to 2, 3, and if you can do it, 1, then we can really understand our why. And our why in whatever we're doing. And it gives us a source to go back to, because sometimes we'll pick a goal that isn't awesome for us or anybody else, and we need a way to get back out of that somehow. And so it's really important to understand the ripple effects of our goals, choosing a goal and understanding how it affects those around us, how it affects ourselves. And then I also had something really clever to say about the pitfalls. But part of that is when you're setting goals, you're going to make mistakes. And so it's really important to have the clear values that you can reflect on your goals and say, is this achieving my core values? Is this answering my why? Why am I here? What am I doing? And you know what? Those are big questions. And I don't expect everybody to have a why, have strong values, feel like they have a really direct purpose. Because sometimes the purpose is just searching for the purpose, and lots of awesome shit happens along the way. So don't feel that you need a strong why. A why could be the discovery process of it all. For me, super clear. Been clear since 4 years old. I know exactly what I'm here to do, and right now I'm doing it, which is pretty cool. But along the way, there's been many pitfalls, and the pitfalls have been me doing everything just to the left or just to the right of my clear goals, of my values. Yes, and I'll tell you one of them. And one of them is, throughout my life, I've thought that to become a motivational speaker, to be out in front of people, I needed to be an entrepreneur that made millions of dollars, that sold lots of things, that could come and tell you how successful I've been. Well, I've been an actor, I've been an entrepreneur, I've had several businesses, I've run for 16 years. None of them particularly successful, but very interesting, and supported my family several times. And of course now an awesome job in digital marketing in a corporate environment, which I find awesome and I thrive in. But the pitfall was that I didn't just go out and start doing talks in my free time, talking about things I'm passionate about, like mental health, like goal setting. Well, goal setting I found along the way. But anyways, let's see here. Important thing about your goals and when you set up your goals is to make sure you enjoy the process of whatever that goal is. And what I mean by that is, if you read James Clear's book, Habbits, I think it is, or whatever it is, he talks about process a lot in that book, and it's really good. The point there is that journey, right? You have to be involved in it. You have to enjoy that process, because as you'll see, when you get to point B, or then when you reach that goal, reach is a funny word as well, there isn't anything there. It's a blank spot. It's a full stop, it might just be nothing, blank space. The goal and achieving the goal is the whole process. You're achieving it every day. I'll give you another example. In 2021, I created the Pass the Hug project, and I created these little pendants that said hug on them, and lots of other meaningful words around the edge. And on the back, it said pass the hug, pass this on when you're done with it. And it had a little hashtag, and you can go to the website, because I'm all techie like that, put your story in. Great, meaningful project. It was donating the money to Women's Refuge in Taranaki, and did this whole project. It was the hardest project I've ever done. I started it with the intention, I said, if this fails, that's cool, I'll go out and I'll do my talks about it, and I'll finally start talking, because this was a goal just to the left. And it didn't work. I did create it. I did get it manufactured. I did raise enough funds to actually get it off the ground a little bit. But the process was painful. I would wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning to do little steps of this process of getting the design done, reaching out to manufacturers, everything. And because my heart wasn't, because it wasn't what I'm supposed to be doing, it was painful. My father-in-law just passed away. I've been planning this for months. I managed to sneak it in on Friday before I left work as a quick meeting. So thank you all for coming. It's pretty awesome for your support. But that's when something really works, the process can flow. Even making these slides, which I know are pretty plain, but I made them at 5 o'clock this morning. So thank you. I rewrote the talk last week after I met with a friend on Friday, and I took them through the talk, and I realized there was a big part about finding your calm that was missing. So there you go. You got to make some changes. What I want to share with you in a second is called the grounding sheet. These are some useful tools that I use to process things for myself. I love to process myself, my life at the end of the day with little notebooks. I won't show the Datacom. We support Datacom a little bit. We work with them. So I use a couple notebooks to process everything from my day, pretty much every day. And I don't I don't get myself down when I miss a day. So I'll show you the little grounding sheet picture, and then I'll go over to this board, and we'll do one over here. So a grounding sheet is an A5 notebook, usually. This is what I use. So I'm going to go use my A5 notebook. The idea behind a grounding sheet is that at the end of your day, you want to be able to decompress everything that happened in your day in relation to it really helps to use this when you're actually trying to reach a goal. It just makes it really simple. Now, this is developed over time because, I'm just learning about myself and the process. Before, I used to have the goal up here in the corner, but now I put my value, my number one value, and that is love, right? So when I was 4.5 years old, I had a really clear message that you're here to share love and kindness with the world. You're here to share your love with the world, and you want people to feel it. And I've been working my whole life to figure out how to do that. And I knew pretty early on, Keith loves to talk. You got to get out there and talk, okay? Because it just jazzes me up. I love it. So I put my value, key value, remind myself what I'm here for, love. And then this is one of my favorite parts because I just absolutely love to think and love to have ideas. I'm an always-on person, pretty much, except for when COVID. That totally put me in the clouds. But beyond that, I love to have ideas. So here, at the end of the day, I might talk about AI podcast. Now, this is an idea I would have during a day. I'm going to start an AI podcast. Great idea, Keith. I start thinking about it and buzzing about it. But at the end of the day, I'm able to capture it in a cloud because that's all it is. It's worth nothing. It's just a bit of, vapor in my mind. It might turn into something, but it's just a cloud. And so something like this might be any other idea that can come up in a day that will just throw me off a little bit. I just capture all the ideas. Ideas. You get that. Ideas. Okay. I want to capture also not only the things that distracted me during the day, those good ideas, which I think are great, they go up in the clouds, but I do some raindrops. Raindrops, I'm going to make it. And the raindrops are the things that I did this day. So I did a talk today. Did talk. Yay. 23. What's up? Okay. So I did a talk, and that was awesome. But then I also, let's say, great meeting at work. Okay, I'm not going to write very well, but I capture everything that I did that was positive that day. Anything, if I did it for work, if I did it for my family, I had spent time with the kids, I did something towards my goal, it all goes there. This whole thing is fun, isn't it? It's just great. It just captures, for me, it captures everything I needed to capture in about 2 minutes. Okay, so now I've made a little compost bucket here. So we need to have a place to put the negative stuff from our day. So I used to be really good at this. Negative, there's nothing. Self-talk. So negative self-talk. Let's say, I can even detail the things I beat myself up that day about, if there was any. Let's say I was grumpy. Oh yeah. Grumpy with kids. That's easy one. I put all that negative stuff in the earth. And there's a reason I put it in the earth, because the earth is pretty amazing, soil's pretty amazing. I'm a bit of a permaculturist. And it does change things. When you put things into the earth, it neutralizes them. So let's neutralize with some positive things I know about myself. Great talker. Just the good things. Great speaker. Well, at least, sorry, that's a bit self-affirming, but I do enjoy this, so I'll tell myself I'm a great speaker. Anything that you can think that day that makes you feel good, okay? Smartly dressed. I got this jacket this weekend. Yeah. Actually, no, I got it Thursday last week. Smartly dressed. Okay. Enjoys looking decent. Okay. This stuff, for me, helps me just neutralize the negative stuff, put myself into a bit of perspective. Okay, and now, a very important part, the goal-setting part. Where are we with this goal? And now, I'm not going to do the greatest job, but I will do my best to do a nice big koru. Forgive my art skills. And in fact, this is my goal, right? So I'm just going to write talks here. This is my life. Me, and I think you, or whoever kind of chooses to think this way, you are the goals. You already have all that you've done in your life up until this point that's brought you to the desire to attain something or do something. In my opinion, the goal is already a part of you. You don't have to achieve the goal. You are the goal. It's already happening for yourself. And not to forget, this is my little part I used to call this koru goals, is that, and this can be anything. This can be a big tree reaching up towards the sun. Hey, see that? Where I'm going here? Goals unfurling towards the sun, heading towards our values. It keeps me in a good perspective of where I'm headed with my goals. And this is part of it. And with the unfurling and with the growing, or whatever you choose to put in your grounding sheet, the idea here is that you're growing towards it. And the important thing to remember is that you will be a different person once you achieve it. So you'll be completely different than you are now. And yeah, there's different ways to look at goals, and this is one of them. That's my grounding sheet, helps me decompress my thoughts. Make it different, make it your own, because I think that's important in life. So the next up is just thinking about the clock, thinking about, in terms of goal setting now, thinking about how much time we actually have. And so it's really important to note that we don't have endless time. We all know that. Work 40 hours a week, family, and trying to achieve something on the side, and then everything else that gets thrown in. For me, a couple of years ago, I'll give an example. I was trying to add yoga into my life, like every day, make sure I did it, and also make sure I had time to work on my goal that was present at that time. And I looked at it and I thought, I'm doing pretty good with the yoga practice almost every day, but how am I going to fit in an hour worth of working on my own personal projects in my life at all? And what I had to do was I had to turn off my phone at night. So after I got home, just before dinner, no screen time post that. That was hard. And I do make exceptions. So if Marie and I want to watch something, so who knows how long it takes us to ever turn on the TV or the computer. But it's very rare, and it's connection time anyways, so it negates the melatonin thing. But the important thing for me was to get a really good sleep, and using screens and getting my brain buzzing before bed wasn't working, but the decompression thing was, so doing the grounding sheets definitely works. Fine-tuning that, yeah, if it's not working, just keep on changing it until it does work. But you have to make drastic changes. If you really want something, you have to make the tough calls and go, I'm not going to get to play on my phone, because my why, my values are so strong, and I'm so connected to them that I have the power to do that and the strength. Important to remember the seasonal changes that happen in our lives. Not only the actual seasons, but the seasons inside us. So important to give yourself a break. When you're doing something like this and you're working towards something and it seems like it's going great and all of a sudden you're off and it's not working, what I do is I tell myself, just taking a season off, just taking a season off. I'm just being, aware of how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, not just plugging through. And sorry, give me a second. With the power of video editing, I can edit this out later. Okay. And it's just a reminder, the windshield wipers is to have clear goals and make sure that you turn your wipers on sometimes to clear off all the things coming towards you and just refresh. Make sure that you don't get too lost. So I'm going to go into another tool I have. So we're kind of in the Habbits section now. I should have did better titling, I'm sorry. The Habbits section is fun. I use a technique called life charting I kind of created. It's nothing new from what I find out. Ben Franklin did something similar, and James Clear, the author of that Habbits book, also did it. So when I found out, I thought, oh man, my creative idea isn't original. But there it is. Let me just tighten that up a bit. Here we have again, a wonderful A5 booklet. And what I do is along the left-hand side, I write a list of things that I want to check in with. The idea behind the life charting is that every night when I go to sleep, I check in with myself how I'm doing just at life in general. And it's not to be judgmental about myself. It's not to give myself a hard time. It's just to get it out of my brain, process it, be in the now, if I could say. And so up here I've got sleep. How did I do the night before? Calm. Was I calm that day? Connected. Was I connected that day with my wife and my kids? Did I feel loved? So did I actually receive some love that day from myself or my family members? It's a good one. Now, I've developed this list over time, and that one I find is a really cool one because it makes you reflect on where you were that day, who were you around, who did you spend time with, how was your interactions with them, and how did that all go? It's really important to me. My health, how did I overall feel? Did I have COVID that day? Did I have a sniffle? Did the back of my throat tickle for like a month? I'd be able to record that here. Was I productive at work or at home? Just productivity in general. Usually productivity for me is a whole day thing. If I'm productive all day. If I'm not, sorry. And how did I do on food? I usually do pretty well on food, but I do give myself penalties here for snacking lots, like when I go just nuts on my snacking. Now, another thing I should mention here, sorry, is the numbers. The numbers, I use a 1 to 10 scale on the top part of this little chart, and I will share this with you all if you want it later. The 1 to 10 chart, eliminating the number 6. So I give myself this scale of 1 to 10 with no 6 as an option. So I get a clear yes, did I pass, or no, did I not? But it's on a gray scale, so it's not like every day that I'm a number 10. I usually don't get ever to 10 and things. But on sleeps, nice solid sleeps, a good 8 is good for me. So it's over that 6. Connected, 7 is still good for me. It's passable. But yeah, no 6. But when I go 5, it didn't happen. I didn't, my health wasn't good enough that day. Totally very clear to me. Now at the bottom, I have a few other ones like yoga, water, my mana, my work. So that's my goal setting right there. And that's either, I've decided to put that into a very definite thing, an X or a tick. Did it happen or not? Yoga, did I do it? Tick or X. And then water, did I drink my water? Did I do my work on my projects? Usually that one gets, lots of X's, but I'm getting into it again. So the bottom of the page I use for notes. I just put the date on. I put the notes for that day on there if I want to add a note or two to it. So again, simple way to process. It does give you some cool, and if you're a geek like me, you do get some analytics where you start to see patterns, and you can actually look at the whole month and see, here's a good month, right? You can see I had notes down below to help me reference because I'll forget about it later on. And I can actually start to see the patterns of where I was eating good, where I was sleeping good, where I was feeling good, and that is fun to look back on. But the main purpose of the light chart is not to judge yourself, it's just to account for it, be done with it, move on. So I need to be really conscious of my time, how much time I want to spend as a dad, work, and goals. But I can tell you what, I'm really happy to make all the mistakes I made here today because my priorities have been my family, not my goal setting right now and not doing my goals. I managed, I showed up. It's a little bit rough around the edges, and that's okay because I can go home today totally jazzed, totally excited that I nailed that goal for January. Get to tell my friend, give him a call, hey, here's the bad recording. And, but yeah, I showed up for my family this week and in this month. So thank you all. You rock. Look, I've got an audience, so I just have to show, because this thing follows me around, you see, isn't it? I love technology. See, this is my audience. They're real people. Cool. All right, thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys. See you later. Thanks. Cool.